There's some little tabs on a piece of spring steel. And that kind of helps you get it started coming off the magnet. But once it's off the magnet, just flex the spring and the part pops right off. And this is the isopropyl alcohol. Rinse the last of the resin off. A little bit more to cover the part. And I'll let it sit in there while I clean the rest of this up. And now that's ready for use again. And this magnet is held on with adhesive. And I want to make sure, this is the one that I sanded, and I want to make sure I get the sanded side to be the side where it's going to print on. And there we go. Okay, now that this is clean, I can actually re-level the build plate. Okay, so these big Allen nuts, whatever, bolts, get loosened. Alright, get it approximately square. And the machine comes with an extra thick piece of paper called the leveling paper. And it's apparently just the right thickness for this. And so I'm going to select Tool, Manual Movement, Home. And this will bring the motor to its home position where it'll come down, interrupt a light beam, then it'll back off and come back into the light beam very slowly to get a precise position. I'm going to hold this down so it doesn't move and tighten these. Right. And so while I was in the manual move menu, there's a button to select how far up. It was set at the last position, which was 10 millimeters per press. And there's an up arrow that I press, in this case 8 times, to raise it up 80 millimeters, which should be enough to let me get the vat back in the machine. Trying not to spill or make a mess. Now I can put its lid on. And how long did it say this would take? 2 hours and 28 minutes. So in 2 hours and 28 minutes I can come back and see if I've got a print in place moving engine model or if I've got another mess to clean up. Okay, so that's the side of the machine where the USB stick went in. And this is the front of the machine, and it has this touch screen control. And it's just telling me it finished the previous print. And so this brings me back to the home screen. And I just want to print a file that's already on the USB stick. And here it's displaying some of the more recent files uploaded to the USB stick. The 3 different printer tests, the sphere, and in this case, the engine. And having selected the engine as the file to print, I'll hit the play button. And it begins. Very slowly, the build table is lowering down. And in a little bit it'll go into that vat of liquid, and then the printer will start exposing different layers. So the resin printer has just finished making this part, and this is isopropyl alcohol, and this is to wash off any extra resin that may be clinging to the part. And it's been soaking in here for a few hours while I had breakfast and coffee and got the printer started on another part and another printer that you probably hear in the background that is also making a part. The noisy printer that you hear in the background is kind of what most people think of as a 3D printer. It melts some plastic filament that is a little bit like fishing line or string trimmer line, but made out of a plastic that melts easily. And this printer, the brand new one, uses a completely different process. It has a vat of resin with a clear window in the bottom, and the resin is hardened by exposure to ultraviolet light, and so it shines a picture of cross sections of your part and builds it up one layer at a time. And the advantage of the resin printers is that they are capable of an amazing level of detail and can make parts that don't have such obvious layer lines. Jewelers like these because they can 3D print a part, make a mold, cast that out of wax as many times as they want, and then use the wax models to cast metal parts using the lost wax process. And jewelers love these because they don't have such obvious layer lines. There isn't a lot of cleanup needed to get an acceptable finish on the final piece of jewelry. As a matter of fact, a lot of times there's really no cleanup required. Just right from the printer to the mold, and then lots of wax copies that get printed. Okay, I'm just going to drop this back in here for a second because the next thing that I'm going to do is move it to the curing station. Okay, so the part comes out of the printer and it's not completely hardened. It's hardened enough that it's no longer liquid. I can pick it up, but if I expose it to more ultraviolet light, it will get even harder. And this is a big advantage because it's not going to be so easily scratched. So over here, I have the curing station. And so I'm going to take my part, shake it off a bit, get most of the alcohol off of it. And then I'm just going to set it right there. And there's a lid for the curing station. Other people have complained that when they're working with the resin, they get their gloves or their hands mucked up with it. And then these plexiglass covers for the machines get all resin fingerprints and they're kind of ruined. Amazon has these stick-on handles and I put them on both of my machines so I can pick them up by the handles and then the plexiglass stays nice. And so these have a really neat user interface. I like it a lot. Whoever came up with this was really smart. You can turn the machine off and on with a long press of this button, and there's a ring around the button that makes it work as a knob, and I can, as I turn this, turn it this way, as I turn this, it increases time by 30 seconds per click, has really definite clicks, which is nice. And the maximum time you can turn it on for is 30 minutes. And they recommend not going beyond that because it will get hotter than it should, apparently. And then a press will start it. And so this looks green because the color is yellow. The LEDs are mostly making ultraviolet light. And the turntable is rotating the part so that there will always be different areas exposed to the ultraviolet. So it gets the ultraviolet will expose all parts of the part or the model, whatever. So that's the curing station and the wash with alcohol. And the curing station actually came with a washing station as well. Here, I can show you that. That's pretty neat too. And it's got the same user interface. It's got this big bucket that was supposed to be filled with alcohol. A lot of people said Mr. Clean did a pretty good job of cleaning off the parts, so that's what I've got in there right now. It's a lot cheaper than alcohol. A long press to turn it off, or a long press to turn it on. So when I rotate this, you can see the time is increasing. And I guess I'll only have it on for 30 seconds because this is a demonstration. But a press, and it starts. And it's counting down till the end of the cycle. And it runs one way for a while and then the other way. And there's a magnetic stirrer in the bottom of this vat of Mr. Clean. And so that's it. That's its 30-second cycle. But it'll stir one way for half the time, then turn around and stir the other way, and then it's done. And supposedly the part can come out of there and then go in the curing station. And you know, for water washable resin, this is probably great. But for the other resins, the parts were coming out of the Mr. Clean a bit sticky. Made a nice pre-wash, I guess. And then I'm not mucking my alcohol up with so much resin. But it's not really doing the job with normal resin. So I'll use it like this for a while. There's probably resin in this Mr. Clean, and well, I'll see how it goes. The manual washing in the little tub with the alcohol is okay for now. And I don't think I have enough alcohol to fill this up anyway. So Amazon will have to bring me a little over a gallon of alcohol, probably 1.5 gallons to fill this. The basket in here has a holder for the build plate from the Elegoo Saturn 3D printer. And so the whole build plate and everything can just go right in there really nicely.